What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review of The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Let's get into it. So the third sequel in The Conjuring is finally out, and it's not directed by James Wan this time. It is, however, directed by the Curse of La Llorona director, Michael Chaves. I believe I'm saying that right. I want to say Chavez, but anyway. This one is actually written by David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, who also wrote the second Conjuring. So we definitely have a decent writer on board for this. And I'll tell you right now, Michael Chaves did a way better job than the Curse of La Llorona. So The Devil Made Me Do It is a story about the infamous Devil Made Me Do It court case in reality, where a man had murdered somebody and used the defense of the devil made me do it. Not only that, the Warrens, the known famous Warrens that all of The Conjuring is based on, played by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, they were involved in that case as well. So this is a very famous case that I'm not really 100% familiar with, but more on that later. It is based on a true story, but, you know, this is movies, guys, so these are going to be spiced up just a little bit. But I'll tell you up front, I really enjoyed this movie. I'm not over the moon about it. I didn't go bananas over it. However, the beginning of the movie is like stomping the gas on the floor, fucking crazy, like right off the bat. Honestly, I'd say the first half of this movie I was more in love with than the second. But it does have a nice kind of wraparound with the Warrens being Patrick Wilson and, of course, Vera Farmiga, who are pretty much mainstays in the Conjuring universe. I don't think The Conjuring would be the same without these people in the cast. I think they're part of the reason why people like these movies so much. If it wasn't for these two, they would be a joke. Up front, I'll just tell you right now, I am a fan of the first two movies. I always have been. I am not a hater of these movies whatsoever, regardless of what they're based on and the truths of what it is or is not true. I just like these movies. I think they're very classically styled horror movies. And I'm not even a sort of a period piece kind of person where in horror movies where they go back several decades or hundreds of years even. And these movies kind of do modern scares with sort of a period piece from like the 60s and 70s and 80s. And this one is no different in that regard. However, some of the scares that are in this movie are going to be a little bit different. And maybe that has to do with the fact that Wan is not on board again as the director. As we already know, he does a really good job of getting those scares. And to be honest with you, The Curse of La Llorona was a fucking jump scare fest, which kind of upset me when I reviewed it. But here, those mistakes are somewhat rectified. It is not a scary movie to me. However, if I was a child and watched the opening of this movie, it would scar me, and I would never forget this movie. In fact, it might be some kid's first movie into the genre that might make them fans of the genre because it's that intense. Scares are subjective. I'm kind of a veteran when it comes to horror movies. I still get scared every now and then, but for the most part, I've seen it, done it, and been there through it all. And there are very few and far between that really kind of sneak in there and kind of make me feel a little eerie. But I think this is a noble effort, and it's a hell of a lot better than what I was expecting from the director. Say what you will about the director, but I think he's corrected a lot of the issues that I've had with his work in the past. But this one is actually on par, maybe slightly below the first two movies. To give you an idea, I actually thought that the first movie, originally when I first saw it, I think I gave The Conjuring like a solid 8. Ultimately now, I have watched these movies a lot more since then, and it should go no lower than an 8.5 or even a 9. I think the first one is probably the pinnacle of the entire franchise. I think it is a great movie. The second one is very close to that, but I wouldn't go any higher than maybe like an 8 or an 8.5. And this one This one is going to be a little bit lower on that, and I'll get to that in a little bit. I definitely enjoyed my time watching this movie. I think that it was handled a lot better than I was expecting, so that is just... I'm just happy of that because I enjoy these characters and I enjoy these stories. I know some people are not fans of the Warrens, so they have sort of their tainted, feelings about those people. But as a story, I'm not upset. I don't find this exploitative. I find it fascinating that it's semi-based off of a true story, even though I'm sure it's all, up in the air because there was a lot. There was a lot of crazy stuff in this movie. This is jam-packed and pretty well paced for the most part of a movie. There was like a lull sort of in it's an hour and 54-minute movie, somewhere around the hour and 20-minute mark. I started kind of dipping out a little bit, but it, for the most part, I think is pretty well paced. There are a lot of crazy things that happened in this movie that there is no way could be true, but it's a movie. They had to spice it up. They made it interesting and they made it enjoyable for me. That said, I would probably give this movie a 7.5. It's not on the scarier side. It's close to an 8. So I almost feel like I should give it an 8, but regardless, a 7.5 isn't that bad, and an 8 is it's pretty close to an 8. Let's just say that. And I will watch this when I watch the franchise again. I don't think it completely destroys the franchise or anything like that. Would I have loved to have Juan come back and finish this movie? Oh, 100%. I really feel like he should have capped out the trilogy and let somebody go after that. These films aren't probably going to be making too much more, I would think, especially if Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga aren't on board, but I'm sure they will be because they're fucking fantastic in these movies. And that is no change here in this movie. They're fantastic from start to finish. I thought they were really great. This one has the expected sort of aspect of their love in the movies, which started to strengthen in the second film, which only makes sense that the writer came back and further extended that love in this movie. It doesn't distract, I think, from the story. It's not a love story masked as a fucking horror movie. It is a horror movie with a subtext of love, which is what the Warrens were about, for each other, that being there for each other in these stories. I really enjoyed it. I will definitely watch the trilogy. I'll definitely be picking it up on 4K and then getting the 4Ks for the other ones. I only have the blues right now for those. But yeah, I think the movies came out in the order that they're best. So first, second, third. I think this one is third. It does have some parts in it that I think really challenge the second one for some good moments. There is a scene in this movie that I was like, ugh, that involved a mortuary or a morgue or something where they check out the bodies and stuff. And that kind of tripped me out a little bit. That was pretty crazy. Plus, not to mention the beginning of this movie, which is just going to fucking floor the gas and just go fucking bananas. There's some pretty cool stuff. Some stuff that they haven't done in other movies before in this. So I have to give it credit for that. It wasn't really scary for me, but it's better than most mainstream movies. If you're not a fan of the Conjuring universe, why are you watching it anyway? I don't think you should. Why would you watch this? If you're a fan of the original two, you should be moderately satisfied for this. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of critiques out there that are saying it destroyed cinema or something because everything these days is so fucking tragic. I think it's a good film, somewhere between 7.5 and 8. And maybe the second time I watch it, I'll like it a little bit more. Also, I wanted to mention to you guys that if you are not familiar, the Discovery Plus is going to be having a documentary for the Shock Docs TV show that they have. That's going to be interviews from some of the original people who were involved in this whole real true story and telling stuff for the first time in 40 years. So if you want to check that out, it's coming out Friday, June 11th on Discovery Plus. It's called Shock Docs. The Devil Made Me Do It. So I'm super excited to check that out for myself because I find this shit fascinating and I would like to know what parts of the movie were real or not. So if you haven't seen the movie or have seen the movie, this will be a great follow-up piece to watch in a week. But what did you guys think? Have you seen it yet? Are you subscribed to HBO Max? Did you go see it in the theater? What do you think of this film? I would love to hear about that in the comment section down below. Do you agree with me about any points? Do you not like the Conjuring universe? I would love to hear from you down there. And don't forget, hit the subscribe button if you aren't subscribed. We have a lot of people who aren't subscribed watching this channel, and you should be. But other than that, thank you guys so much for stopping by and supporting this channel. And as always, long live the void.